Ho ho buddies, once Borderline Games. I'm Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head. Last time, Takumi was the most gross he's ever been. With the things that he's doing to Remy. Dare I say it this early in this video? Let's just say that, you know, what's the grossest thing you could do to somebody else? And that's pretty much what he did in this delusion. I guess it's kind of it's like a metaphor for him kind of not necessarily a metaphor, but him facing the worst version of himself, or the worst parts of himself. And then we saw that he was tortured in another delusion where he had a spike through his entire body. And now we're back here facing Narose. In front of me was Narose, D-sword raised. Are you ready? Back so soon. The 3 days you just experienced were in fact but a single second in reality. So it was just a delusion. After muttering that to myself in relief. Narose's D-sword flashed as fast as lightning. My body's top and bottom halves began to fall out of alignment. My vision fell. It sank downward, even though my legs were still standing right there. Everything above my waist toppled to the floor. My torso had been cleaved clean off. The cross-section was all too beautiful to behold. I inexplicably fixed my gaze on my lower half. It was a reality I didn't want to accept, or was it just another delusion? If it was, that would have been nice. Please be a delusion. Taku. Oh, Taku! Taku! Remy was calling me, in a voice that seemed so sad. She was calling me. Even in that state, it'll be a number of minutes before your death. As a former doctor, you have my word on that. Oh, he was a doctor. In the hospital. In the meantime, allow me to extract your code sample. I crawled, dragging my body away with my right hand alone. I headed straight for Remy's voice. I want to feel you there, Remy. I have to save you. Remy. I dragged myself forward with my right hand. Then again. Then again. I reached out. But I had no idea where Remy was. I didn't reach her. I didn't reach anything at all. Such an obstinate young man. Oh, Aya. Crunch. I felt my bones grind to dust. Narose's dress shoes trampled my outstretched right hand. Or perhaps monster would be a far more apt title. Narose's legs waver like a mirage in the desert. Narose's legs waver like a mirage in the desert. The tile pattern on the floor begins to blur and distort. And it's upside down. Bottom becomes top and top becomes bottom. The floor becomes the ceiling and the ceiling becomes the floor. I find myself crawling on my stomach. A staggering amount of blood gushes out from my severed waistline. Like a water faucet, put on full blast. The blood is draining out of my body. Or is it? And then, just like that, my organs cascade out of the opening in my arm. My consciousness surges far, far away. But I don't lose it completely. Blood starts to pool around me. My body is lying in a sea of crimson. Thump. Thump. As my heart beats, it rolls onto the floor in front of me, forming ripples in the bloody puddle. I watch the ripples in a daze. My shape collapses. I'm unable to maintain my shape as a person. The boundary between myself and the world vanishes. My flesh melts. My bones warp like rubber. My eyeballs become square-shaped. Too much TV. My inside-out lungs tumble out of my mouth. I don't know if TV does that. My nerves are stretched out for tens of thousands of kilometers. One by one, the wrinkles of my brain slowly smooth themselves out. My body becomes a flabby blob. I dissolve into the air. My right hand stretches as if it were made of thread. It leaves the planetarium. And like a parade float, it wanders about the Shibuya sky, whirls around Cornelius Tower, wraps around it, again and again, again and again, again and again. Weird, what is this? My not-together legs swell up. Glub glub. Like a water balloon. Bulging out, my skin grows. It makes rubbery sounds. I'm turning into liquid. Even my flesh, even my bones. They melt and clog up my calves. Then a little head springs out of my hip. It looks at me with white, googly eyes. Hello. And then my head gets smashed to pieces. I don't know which head exactly. It's all smashed and pulpy though. The building's concrete floor. I slip between the cracks in its molecules. Falling. To the ground. Whoosh. Okay, so we've wrapped around the towers above and now we've splattered down to the floor. I splat on the ground. Goopy brain. Puddle. Oh. Squirmy squirm. Gushy gush. Slurpy slurp. Sticky stick. Jiggle jiggle. Jiggly jiggle. Bouncy bounce. Splashy splash. Gloopy gloop. Splatty splat. I mean, you've got to make your word count somehow. I become 2. 2 becomes 4. 4 becomes 8. 8 becomes 4. 2 becomes 8. 4 becomes 4. What are we doing here? Slowly multiply. Slowly divide. There's a lot of me. But also there's none of me. What is me? What am I? I am what? Me? What? What's I? What? Mwah. M? You're more than just a delusion. Oh, is this, Shogun? Who? You? Look closely. Is it Shogun? I'm going to assume it is. Nishijo Nanami prays. In a hospital, admitted alongside her brother, curled up in the corner of a waiting room brimming with injured souls. Clutching her real brother's wrinkled hand. Enduring the pain in her right hand. She closes her eyes. and prays for the safety of her other brother. Kusunoki Yua prays by the rubble of a collapsed building, in a container that lay buried by it all, clutching one of his anime girl figures, enduring the pain in her chest from seeing his figures desecrated by the earthquake and ensuing fires. She closes her eyes and prays for the safety of the boy who forgave her. Kishimoto Ayase prays at Sumai Academy, now an evacuation shelter, looking to the sky from the rooftop, clutching her paperwork books of legends, enduring the malicious pain of the innumerable delusions concealing the collapsed Shibuya. She closes her eyes and prays for the safety of the boy who listened to her song and her story. Arihara Kozui prays at the Shinsen station on a dimly lit platform, clutching Ayoi Sena's trembling hand, enduring the pain of her injured leg. She closes her eyes and prays for the safety of the boy, her classmate, whom she spoke with in her inner voice. Who's next? There's Sena. Ayoi Sena prays, sitting beside her father on the ground, clutching her father's cold hand, enduring the pain of regret having not been honest to the very end. She closes her eyes and prays. Is it going to be Rimi praying? For the safety of the boy who tried to grant her wish no matter how clumsily. Yes. Sakihata Rimi prays, lying on the cold floor, tightly clutching her own hands, extended toward him, enduring the tightening in her chest from when she saw him covered in wounds. She closes her eyes and prays for the safety of the boy whom she swore to protect, yet instead came to save her. Is this going to be Takumi? I wasn't able to do anything. Or is it Shogun?
It was you who acted.
I guess we don't know. Yeah, okay, this is Shogun, I think.
As a result, everyone has had their eyes on you. Mutual recognition of you has long since been established. From this point forward, no, already, you are...
I am. Who are? You.
I am...
Oh. Taku. The moment I heard that voice. My consciousness stabilized me. The once swirling world converged all at once. Oh, we're so back. My D-sword took shape as a converging chaos. I returned to my shape as myself. The world returned to its shape as the world. I am me. I could see clearly now. The rain has gone. All my wounds had healed. My top and bottom halves were connected. I was standing on my own 2 feet. The pain was entirely gone. Serenity filled my heart. You did well to overcome the delusions. Oh, I see. That's Shogun.
I entrust you with the last of my power.
I noticed Rimi at the edge of my vision. She was okay. She was looking at me. Tears were falling down her face. Don't cry. Summoning my strength, I grasped the D-sword's hilt. I ascertained its feeling. My arms worked better than ever. I had completely regenerated. My, this is quite fascinating. You damn monstrosity! I focused my eyes on the Rosei. Sure, I'm a monster, but this is... So I can rescue Rimi, so I can destroy Noah the Second, or Noah 2. The delusion that I wished for. Oop. Oh, okay, hiya. And we're back. Narosei's response was swift. He had yet to harvest the code sample of Nishijou Takumi. The delusion was supposed to have cornered the boy and shattered his psyche, but now the tables had turned. And that he could not allow. Narosei closed the gap between himself and Takumi. Taking a specific angle, he swung his D-sword from below. With a D-sword that could cleave any known object, he diagonally carved through Takumi's chest. The target's durability made no difference. Killing a person with it was as simple as slicing through a block of gelatin. With one quick swipe from Narosei, Takumi's body was split into pieces. I mean, you saw me regenerate right before your eyes. I'm gonna do it again. His head, right arm and right shoulder all slid cleanly off his body. Internal organs littered the floor, but not a single drop of blood fell with them. The lower half of Takumi's body began to give way. He braced himself and managed to plant his feet. In the following moment, the cross-section of his wound began to undulate and squirm. Ha! You're fucked now, Narosei. A bubbling noise ensued. And then he regenerated. Even though his body had been cleaved apart by a mere second ago. Already a new head, right arm and shoulder had been born. His old head and internal organs remained where they had slid free from him. I already blocked off my sense of pain. He did it. With a single step, Takumi approached Narosei. Narosei clicked his tongue, then turned over his D-sword. By virtue of casting aside your bodily form. Any form whatsoever is within your means, I take it. You can thank the delusion you show me for that. He was unable to retain his shape as a human being. He had taken in the delusion and made it his own. This was not regeneration, but replacement. Missing parts replenished. Flesh and bone were produced once again, all propagating infinitely from the dust within his body. His shape was not fixed. Like an amoeba, like a collection of slime, he could change himself freely. That was the reason Takumi called himself a monster. Takumi took yet another step towards Narosei. Narosei's frustration increased. Gripping the hilt, he thrusted his D-sword at the approaching Takumi. Takumi's head found itself between a colossal pair of scissors. Without a brain, you can't make any more delusions. Now, can you? You can't make any more delusions now, can you? Takumi's head was crushed. It split like a watermelon. Blood and grey matter burst forth. Everything above the neck was gone, and yet Takumi's body remained. Regeneration, replacement, was instantaneous. As soon as his heel hit the ground, as if nothing had happened, as if he'd been entirely replaced, his head returned right to where it had been without a single scratch. Narosei awakened to an understanding. He could not win this fight. Physical attacks with his D-sword were useless. The delusional attack denying the boy's reason for existence had been taken in and used for an alternate purpose. The current Nishijou Takumi was all too removed from human normalcy, all too distorted of an existence, all too fitting as a monster. And yet, despite it all, Narose had no intention of conceding. His next thought was to utilize Noah II's power to bombard Takumi with innumerable antiparticles. Bombardment with antiparticles could transform any known existence into negative matter, ending ultimately in self-collapse. If disruption from the surface was not viable, then collapse must be undertaken from within. You're on the right track. Narose's thoughts had been read by Takumi. What? The shine of Takumi's D-sword transformed from red to black. A black flame enveloped the blade. It wriggled forth, extending outward. Its shape resembled that of a dark, colossal serpent. And then it shall appear. It roamed throughout the dome as if constrained by it. Toward the ceiling, toward the floor, as though it was licking them up, as though it was scraping them away. It simply consumed. A dark, colossal serpent of wicked hearts. A being capable of devouring all corrosion, shattering the wicked-hearted king's body itself, and instilling heterogeneity in his homogeneity. The body of the colossal serpent was composed of antiparticles. With a mere touch, it could send any known object into self-collapse. A torrent of destruction composed of near infinite greed. Can't say I'm all that fond of tentacle porn, though. I've got to read what that tip is. A genre of pornography depicting women being subjected to various horrible acts penetrated by a tentacled monster. There and then Takumi's D-sword swung, its pointed tip fixed on Narose. Here we go. Taste my blade! The dark serpent, winding itself in a coil, curved its body like a whip. Its jaw snapped at Narose. Such power. It can't be! Not once had Narose ever seen such a phenomenon from a D-sword. He could not discern whether it was the hidden power of all Giglomaniacs, or merely Takumi's delusion. The dark fangs eroded Narose's body, and he began to collapse. All too slowly, like a frog slowly dissolving in the belly of a snake. Darkness swallowed him. He felt no pain. By nature, his death should have been instant. But that was not what Takumi wished for. Realizing this, Narose's lips twisted into a derisive smile. Narose had no fear of death. One could say that the ideals he pursued had been accomplished with the completion of Noah II. Or Noah II. Even if you kill me, no other person can approach Noah II. Perpetual motion machine. That is what you're dealing with. Its administration over humanity will last until the end of time. It does not merely sit idle and watch from afar, rather it's a man-made god which interferes for the sake of mankind's happiness. Narose was God's inventor, so to speak. As long as Noah II continued to exist, mankind could not perish, and the eternal utopia Narose sought would become real. However, but you can approach it, can't you? What? The serpent's body wriggled and writhed with Narose in its grasp, lifting his body into the air. If that's the case, then you're the key. Narose was astonished, but soon enough his face changed into an expression of pure agony. The serpent swung around his body with ease. Takumi shot a glance at Rimi. Their eyes met. Just what was Rimi feeling as she watched him? Reading her mind would have been effortless. And yet, Takumi did nothing of the sort. It seems I was able to save you after all. He quickly averted his eyes. His gaze then shifted to the still humming Noah II, the throne of God where none could stand foot. A cradle which showed naught but dreams of bliss. I'm sorry. He apologized to no one in particular. I very well might be an enemy of humanity. The eternal utopia this device would have brought. A future without conflict. Takumi would extinguish them with his own 2 hands. Was that right? Or was it wrong? Takumi could not give the answer to that. But it's pretty common in mythology. Even gods tend to slack off when women are involved. That's why I, too, will sacrifice the happiness of mankind out of the love for a girl. Takumi, he sword in hand, bent his arms in a giant arc. Break through! He thrusted it forth, just like a javelin. The colossal serpent of darkness charged straight ahead. With the bait known as Nerose impaled by its tip, it flew straight toward Noah II. An enormous serpent of antiparticles, capable of terminating any known object. It had no will of its own, thus it was not something that could have been warped nor distorted. With the greedy impulse to destroy, using Nerose as the key, the delusional barrier was easily smashed to pieces. Boom. Well, it turns out it was pretty easy. I mean, surely anyone could have thrown him in it. When had the rain begun to fall? There'd just been a huge explosion. And its blast. Its blast blew my body away like it was nothing more than a ragdoll. Next thing I knew, I found myself lying there. Lying here. Those eyes were always watching me. The stare pierced through the thick, pitch-black rain clouds and poured down on me like rain. Don't look at me. My body couldn't stop shivering, not from the chill of the rain, but rather the ice-cold rubble against my back. So terribly cold. A gaze pierced me from the heavens. Who it belonged to, I couldn't say. As if to escape it, I raised my head to look at the environment around me. This was from the beginning of the game, wasn't it? There I saw a ruined city. There I saw despair. There I saw death. There I saw nothingness. Not a soul was there. Not a soul was moving, not a soul was left alive. The only thing I could hear was the sound of the rain continuing to pour. At this rate, everything, both the living and the dead, would it all be gently embraced and washed away? How nice it would be if all of this was just a delusion, but that didn't seem to be the case. I couldn't move my body. I could only move my eyes and neck, and even then just barely. I couldn't use that monstrous power from before. My body was shivering, but that was nothing more than a physiological phenomenon. It wasn't happening by my own will. I didn't want my body to tremble. If I couldn't move it freely, then it wasn't my body. Or maybe I've never had free will ever since I was born. Nobody knows exactly where the soul resides. Bearing that in mind, how could anyone say that there was a soul inside this body of mine? But then where exactly was I now? Was I really here? Was I anywhere at all? In this shattered world where all stood still, where all that could be heard was the rain of death, suddenly another sound echoed through it. A solitary existence began to emerge from the sea of nothingness. Who are you? Is your skin so pale? Because it had been numbed by the chill of the rain? Or was it because you were already dead? And yet the girl wasn't shivering. And those eyes of hers nearly hidden by her bangs. Don't look at me. They looked so terribly sad. They looked as if they held a hint of madness. They looked as if they reflected nothing. If she and I were the only ones left in the world, if we stared into each other's eyes like this for all eternity, would my world be reduced to the reflection in their eyes? Would her world be reduced to the reflection in my eyes? The only thing reflected in her eyes was me, and the only thing reflected in my eyes was her. When I thought of it that way, the world immediately seemed so much smaller. Hey. Suddenly a flash of static reached my ears, one endlessly beautiful yet deeply discordant. She lowered her head and spread her arms wide, almost as if preparing to take off, to soar high above the rain clouds, or as if trying to catch all of the falling rain. All of the falling rain. All that's watching you. Is that Vimy or is that me? Is a delusion. From where I was on the ground, I couldn't see the expression on that lowered head of hers. Behind this thin veil of rain, just what kind of face are you making? You're gonna get the song again. I'll put you to rest now. An angel? Were those dancing feathers of light blessing me, or... Ah, I see. I finally understand. She's going to use that to kill me. The girl slowly kneeled to the ground before my collapsed body. With her head still lowered, she gently took my own in her hands. I surrendered my body to her grasp. I was just relieved that she wasn't looking at me. I'll put you to rest now. In my ear I heard a whisper, garbled by static. It was as beautiful as it was discordant. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There's nothing to apologise for. If I don't disappear, the other me, the real me, will die. So, that's why I'm okay with this. In fact, I'm really glad I get to be erased by you. It's not a bad end for a monster like me. Didn't see that last bit. A warm, soft, gentle, sweet sensation. And miraculously, as if it were an anaesthetic, the shivering in my body slowly began to die down. Her soft breath tickled my cheeks. It smelled so sweet. Suddenly I sensed something pressing against my chest. The large sword she held tore through my skin, bored into my flesh, weaved through my bones, and slowly sank through to the centre of my body. But, gifted with the anaesthesia of her kiss, I no longer felt any pain. I would never have imagined that I would get such a kind death. Just the thought of it broke my heart, leaving me on the verge of tears. Trying to hide them, I looked past the girl's head up and toward the ashen sky, where the rain continued to pour. Whoa, and we've got an ending. Nishijou Takumi. Cool. So I've read that there's multiple endings to this game. I'm guessing that this is the bad ending. I'm not sure how you achieve the other endings, but I don't know whether... Like, am I going to have to go through the very start of the game and... I don't know, skip and choose different delusions and stuff to unlock different endings? Because that'll take a long time, and I'm not sure whether it's worth making that into additional episodes, but I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe it'll just unlock an ending, and I can just do that instead, and that'll be easier. Yeah, so I guess this is like the worst ending, I'd assume. Should I click? Fetishism arc. No, I guess I can't click. I'm just gotta wait. I'll wait my turn. Akobe Naaki. That's a cool name. Debugging by Moo. Yeah, so I guess I've got to... Let me look this up. I mean, maybe it's something I come back to at a later date. Chaos Head. Let's get different endings. Should I be looking this up, or is this going to spoil things for me? Right, okay, so it looks like after getting either the A or AA ending, the B ending is unlocked. And then to get the B ending, at least 11 of the 17 of the delusion triggers have to be chosen in a certain way. Interesting. And there's a guide to the endings of the game on Chaos Head guidance page for people having trouble reaching all of the endings. Or maybe we'll be doing that. I'm assuming it's going to say, hey, there's another ending at the end of this. I mean, so far I did enjoy it. It was a good game. I think that, I don't know, I think that Takumi's, Takumi being the protagonist is probably my least favourite thing about it. Like, his inceldom and his, I don't know, that last scene with Takumi doing that to me was kind of foul. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like you could do that and it could be as effective without actually following through and being that graphic. There are a bunch of graphic things that didn't need to be in this game, I think. I reached ending A. Good job. Reached the Silent Sky ending. CG library is now available. Perfect. Sound library is now available. Movie library. Okay. Shortcut has been unlocked. What does that mean, shortcut? So, I say continue. Shortcut. What do I do here? Ah, okay. So I can go back and do different choices. Okay, that's cool. Well, I guess next time on Borderline Games, we're going to be looking through different endings of this. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head, and we'll see you next time. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye-bye-bye.